It's just water. Crazy enough, I am now 2 years alcohol free. And if you would have come to me at age 22 and told me that a decade later I'd be 2 years into an alcohol free journey, I would have called you batshit crazy. At the time, I was probably drinking 4 to 5 nights a week, and I didn't even see that that was a problem. It's something that I think a lot of young adults get into, not necessarily because it's an addiction or because it's something that they really value in their life. It's just like a societal habit that a lot of people fall into, myself included. So why did I give up alcohol in the first place? Unfortunately, in 2020, I received some blood work that showed that I had some liver issues. That was my first sign that potentially I should consider giving up alcohol. I was probably drinking 2 to 3 nights a week at the time, and drinking alcohol is something that I was doing from age 16, 17 onward. When I got into college, I had dreams to potentially be a professional athlete and do a lot of massive things with my life. But what started happening was every weekend I fell into the trap that I think a lot of people do, which is celebrating the end of the week and binge drinking. And when I think back to my own life, I realized that I wasn't in control in those moments, and I'm here today because I want to potentially help other people start to regain some of their control. So in this video, I'm going to walk through some of the lessons I've learned throughout the past 2 years of going alcohol free, as well as why I believe others should consider doing it. But I want to make a statement here. I'm not one of those people that thinks everyone should give up alcohol. I don't believe that everybody has an issue with alcohol or people should just be sober in general, because we all have certain things that we do throughout our lives that can be seen as detrimental to us, but could potentially be helpful. And I want to acknowledge that because every human being is different. But if you're like me and you're somebody that tends to go 0 to 180 miles an hour in all areas of life, including when you drink alcohol, you might want to consider sticking around for the rest of this video and learning about the lessons that I had that potentially could parlay into your own life. So the first lesson that I feel will hit home with a lot of people out there is the feeling that you need alcohol to provide a good time. You either need it to get the courage to talk to that girl or guy that you're nervous to talk to. You don't know how to dance, so you drink alcohol to get yourself out on the dance floor and mingle. You want to escape something that happened earlier that week, so maybe you took a test and you failed it and you'd like to just forget about it. One of the main driving factors and one of the hardest things to break is the mindset that you yourself alone can have a great time without alcohol. And I think this is something that took me many years to realize. But if I were to reflect on my life right now, I'm 32 years old, which means that for the first half of my life, I never drank alcohol at all. And when I think about that, a lot of my youth, I had a lot of fun and I engaged with a lot of people. I met different people, I had different experiences, and none of it included alcohol. So why was it that when I became an adult, I felt like I needed to introduce this substance into my life to add value, rather than what ended up happening was it was taking value from me? When I dig a little bit deeper into lesson 1, it goes right into lesson 2, which is peer pressure is real. When you're in your teen years and you're trying to fit in and you're going to different gatherings or parties and you become introduced to alcohol and other substances, you're no longer thinking, what is the best thing for me personally and my goals and my dreams? You start to think, well, if this person's doing it and this person's doing it, it can't be that bad for me. The reality is, so many people around us aren't happy, they're overweight. In their mind, they're not who they potentially could be, but they're not gonna come out and just say that. When you're feeling that pressure to fit in and nobody's really opening up about their emotions or their feelings, they're really just going about life and trying to figure things out, it can become very easy to do things that you would normally say no to. I know what this is like because I was the guy that not only got really good grades and had an academic scholarship, I was also one of the best players on my team and a leader throughout my community. I thought that that justified drinking and doing some of the actions when I look back on that I'm not necessarily proud of. One of the things that I look back on and laugh on, when I was in college, one of the fraternities there didn't let me and my friends into one of their parties. So we decided that we should steal their fence. Therefore, anybody can just walk into their lawn and potentially get into their parties. I also ended up breaking things like mirrors and other things that I didn't mean to. My wife, Erin, we were out one time when I was visiting school. I accidentally punched the ceiling at a bar and it fell on her. So imagine the girl that you really love. And at that time I was trying to court and trying to date her. You end up doing something really stupid just because you're inebriated. Out of all the lessons that I've learned, this one is probably the one the most people are going to relate to. We all know what it's like to feel peer pressure because it doesn't just have to be alcohol related. I really want to hit home on this point because if you're somebody that feels like you're struggling with alcohol because of your peers, you need to change your environment. So for me, I left the Northeast, yes, because I wanted to get a new job and create a new life for myself. But a big part of me leaving was I wanted to leave behind the culture and peer pressure of being a certain type of person. Once I left that environment and got to figure out life for myself, it was much easier to make decisions that were in best interest of me. And one of those decisions was to reduce my amount of alcohol and eventually not drink it at all. Like I'd mentioned, I received some blood work that scared me. And at first I did a 30-day alcohol-free cleanse to see if I can change my blood work. As soon as I start seeing that my liver scores were improving when I cut out alcohol, you know what I did? I kept drinking. But when I was in this mindset, I started to realize that I was more scared of myself and how I couldn't control the urge to drink more so than what the alcohol was actually doing to me in the first place. It was a reality check where I clearly had something in front of me that was telling me I shouldn't do this thing and I couldn't stay away from it. So for about 3 months, I would go a couple weeks without drinking and then I would go on a bender. But throughout those couple months, what ended up happening was I was becoming more in tune with myself. Because I was frequently going longer stints without alcohol, I started noticing the difference when I had no alcohol in my system for a long time, and then again when I binge drank. And I really started to understand what alcohol was doing to my body and how it was impacting it. And that's where I'm gonna go into lesson number 3, where the most crucial thing that I learned about alcohol was how poorly I slept when I drank and how that poor sleep had a negative impact on all areas of my life. Because if you think of yourself, when you wake up from a poor night's sleep, the number one thing that's gonna suffer is your decision making. When I drank, I realized that I was making poor decisions. And then when I slept poorly, even when I was sober, technically, I started to make poor decisions. I wasn't the best me. I wasn't the best I could be for my wife. I wasn't the best that I could be for my family or my friends. In my career, I was slacking because instead of waking up and feeling passionate and mission driven, I felt hungover and lethargic and needed to sleep a couple hours just to get back to my baseline. Like I'd mentioned earlier, I had these aspirations to be a professional athlete. And when I looked in the mirror at myself as I got older and realized my dream got crushed, not because of some external factor, but because of an internal factor of me losing control, I started to get really mad at myself. But instead of reclusing or going into self-deprecation like I used to, I use it as energy to start running again, start doing some hybrid training, and start understanding what are some positive outlets that I could attack to start working my way towards some old dreams that I had. So if you're somebody that's considering to give up alcohol, I highly recommend just going 30 days, see how your sleep improves, get an Oura Ring or a Whoop or some type of mechanism where you can measure your sleep, and then get a journal to just write down how you feel. Because the biggest thing is, as soon as you can decipher between how you feel when you've been sober for a longer period of time and when you drink, it gets easier and easier to say, you know what? I don't need that substance in my life because it doesn't help me. And that's the type of mindset that I started to compound over time. I started thinking what is the value add of this alcohol to my life? Because I was getting better sleep, because I was eating better, because I was training better, I realized the alcohol didn't have any value add. So it was much easier to cut out. The result of this is my weekends got better. not worse. I think another fear that people have is like, if I'm not drinking, what am I doing on Friday and Saturday night? It's going to force you to think outside the box and create new experiences for yourself. We're going to meet new types of people. You're going to invest your energy into new hobbies. And at the end of the day, you're going to have more energy during that period of time from Friday to Sunday night. If you were like me and you went to happy hour on Friday and Saturday night, you probably went around 5 to 6, or let's say you skip happy hour and then you go out around 9 or 10. Either which way, you're going to end up probably spending 5 to 6 hours out that night. You're then going to be hungover the next morning. So you're probably spending 3 to 4 hours not feeling your best. So let's just round it to 10. That's 10 hours from Friday night to Saturday morning that you're not operating at your best. Then you do the same thing Saturday night into Sunday. So that's 20 hours during your weekend that you're cutting into where you're not living your optimal life. When I gained clarity because I was sleeping better and I was feeling better about myself, and I realized that the math just wasn't adding up to alcohol being in my life, it only compounded the results that I started to see. And the most important results that I care most about today, how it's impacted my relationships with my wife, my family, my friends, and my community. Everything that I was invested in started to see an increase of positive energy. And that's because I was showing up as my best self, because I was getting 1% better every day and there was no alcohol to really like take my legs out and cut me back to square one. I was able to invest positive energy into a lot more. 20 hours came back to my life every single weekend, and I started taking advantage of those 20 hours. I'm not gonna bullshit you. Cutting it out is not easy. You can make the decision today to completely stop and go a separate way. I mentioned earlier that I'm somebody that goes 180 miles an hour. I'm somebody that goes all in everything that I want to do. And up until the last day that I drink, that's exactly what I did. On my wife's 30th birthday, we had hundreds of dollars of food and alcohol at this event. And I decided that I was going to drink for the entire 12 hours that day that we were hosting this party. So we can't even tell you how many drinks I had. I could tell you how bad I felt when I woke up the next day, but I wanted to feel that pain because I knew that that was the last time that I was going to feel that for the foreseeable future. Because the goal in my mind was I'm going to go hard as hell this one last day. And then for an entire year, I'm going to cut this substance out of my life. And as soon as I got there, I realized that alcohol has no purpose in my life. I didn't feel the urge to have alcohol. I didn't need it to live a better life or to help me do things or to be a better me. None of that existed. So as I sit here 2 years into my alcohol-free journey, I've realized that one, I don't ever see myself drinking alcohol again. I'm free. And that's a feeling that I want other people to have in their own lives. It doesn't just have to be alcohol though. If you listen to this full video today, what I really hope that you grasp is that there's things that you're doing in your life that are inhibiting you from getting to your next level. It could be the people around you. It could be the environment you're in. It could be your own mind. But at the end of the day, unless you decide to make a change and unless you put a date to that change and an action plan to that change, nothing is going to happen. Nothing changes if nothing changes is something that I say to myself fairly frequently. And that's how I want to wrap up this video, because if nothing changes after you watch this video, then nothing's going to change in your life. If you want help making that change, I'd be more than happy to talk to you. So hit me up in the comments below or reach out to me personally. I'd love to help you not only on your alcohol-free journey, but in other areas of your life that you're feeling stuck. It's just out. That's a good blooper right there. It's just alcohol.